This is Mike and Ham from Please Pause. Meron kaming munting podcast where we talk about all things TV and film. And despite that, surprisingly, we are still married.
Control freak ka kasi sa podcast na to.
30 seconds lang po ang meron tayo. Pakibilisan.
From blockbusters to classics, superheroes to love teams, hit series to teleseries, join us as we have meaningful and meaningless conversations on the stuff we watched. Someday, mababago ka rin ang tagline na yan.
Check out Please Pause on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.
See you there!
For more local podcasts, check out more shows from Pilipinas Indie Podcast and Entertainment Network.
Hype Network presents.
Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. This is the THEMTG Show Podcast.
Okay. Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTG Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. Oh yes, so sa mga napapaisip kung bakit dalawa yung episode ko this week. Because number 1, ginawa na namin ni Derb ng Wrestling After Work ng review itong this year's Royal Rumble. Kung na-miss niyo yung episode na yon, andyan yung link sa description below. Pero para sa inyo, i-recap ko pa din yung mga nangyari on this year's Royal Rumble and perhaps yung review ko, yung ratings ko. Hindi ko na siya hahabaan ng review. Lahat ng review, I think, sinabi na namin dalawa doon sa episode namin last Thursday. Doon sa bonus episode that we did last Thursday nga. And lahat ng sinabi namin is pawang facts lamang and also kung ano yung mga napanood namin for this year's Royal Rumble. So, bear with us. Okay, so before we start this week's episode, I want to say thank you for everyone who is supporting this podcast. So, meron na lang tayong 12 episodes before we bago tayo mga 100 eps. And habang lumalapit yung episode 100, maybe kaya natin makapaggawa at least 2 episodes a week. O habang lumalapit yung episode 100, siguro subukan natin mag 2 eps a week. At least mga isang buwan o 2 months, no? Hanggang maka-episode 100 tayo. Na. Ako kasi nagsusulat na ako plano for last 5 episodes or at least last 10 episodes before we go to 100. And sana makontak ko sila Carlo Pumintuan, si Stancy. Yun kasi ang isa sa mga sinusulat ko for the episode 100 countdown. Since ito ay 12 episodes na lang yun eh. Kailangan ko na din magbatak-batak. Ano? Hindi yung batak na addict. No? Sige. Before we start this episode, like what I said earlier on the episode 87 of the podcast, yes, open na ulit yung ating Patreon. Patreon.com/TheMTGShowPod. So, apparently, ang gagawin ko sa Patreon, starting Saturday sa SmackDown, subukan ko dun mag-review ng bara-bara. Hindi naman bara-bara, no? Siguro yung mga SmackDown eps, SmackDown, Raw, NXT, try my best. Tsaka, kung ano pa yung mapapanood ko. at least 1 day delay. No? Habang nandito pa ako, we're good. Siguro mga at least 2 hours, 3 hours after the show, i-up ko yung review ko sa Patreon. So, yung Patreon natin is 50 pesos, $1 sa patreon.com/TheMTGShowPod. And $2 naman, syempre, dun tayo sa bonus. Yun sa podcast wrecker tier natin na kung saan may kasamang acknowledgement dito sa show. For now, yun lang muna ang perks. And then, pag nag-subscribe kayo sa Patreon, sasali ko kayo sa isang bagong Discord server. Gagawa ko ng isang Discord server na kung saan makapag-interactive tayo. We're going to talk about wrestling. And may moderator ako doon, syempre. May tagabantay ako doon. Siguro, i-figure out ko siya sa ibang araw habang rumorol pa yung mga stuff ko here in the podcast, di ba? So, yun lang muna. Yun lang muna ang pwede ko sabihin about the Patreon. Again, if you want to subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/TheMTGShowPod. Alright, so let's start our podcast with some Shane McMahon news. So, earlier this week, nakakuha tayo ng news about Shane McMahon quitting WWE. And we're not sure kung ano ba ang cause. Siguro yung cause probably is his appearance and his role on this year's Royal Rumble. Plus, dagdag natin yung nangyari sa kanya the recent days. Of course, maraming nagalit kay Shane because of his appearance and on his role as a producer of this year's Royal Rumble, Men's Royal Rumble. Dagdag pa natin na according, ito na naman tayo sa sources kasi hindi ako sure. Ito I'm going to say this once. I'm not sure if the source on this one is true. But Ringside News said that Shane McMahon quit or was let go by WWE because of his actions from the Royal Rumble. And maybe that's true, maybe lies, maybe it doesn't matter because fuck you. And pinost din siya ni Dave Meltzer. And I don't believe Meltzer at all. Hindi ako naniniwala kay Dave at all. Ewan ko sa mga believers dito ni Dave. Wala naman ako pakialam sa inyo kung papaniwalaan nyo si Dave. But it doesn't matter. Anyways, let's talk about Shane now. Si Shane kasi hindi naman napag-usapan sa podcast episode na yon. So, I'm going to do my little talk on this Shane McMahon thing. Si Shane is ang nag-eliminate kay Kevin Owens on this year's Royal Rumble. And syempre, the crowd turned mild. Yun ang important highlight ni Shane McMahon dito. And buti nga natanggal ka ni Bad Bunny ata yan. I'm not sure kung si Bad Bunny nga. But I think, si Brock. Si Brock pala nakatanggal. Holy shit. I forgot. Man, Shane McMahon stinks. Pero hindi rin natin masisisi. If this motherfucker quit. Alright? Hindi na rin matino ang kanyang role. Hindi rin naman clear. Hindi rin naman sure kung totoo nga nag-quit si Shane McMahon. So, we're going to follow this thing up. Moving forward siguro hanggang magkaroon tayo ng resolution doon sa rumor na to about Shane McMahon. But now, we're going to see at least hindi ako sigurado. Alright? We're not sure on Shane McMahon's stuff right now. Number 2, let's talk about Jeff Hardy's. Jeff Hardy's or Hardy's sa madaling sabi, where Jeff Hardy declined a Hall of Fame induction by WWE. According sa kanilang Twitch stream within this week, and he said that he declined a Hall of Fame induction. Siguro, ito sa akin lang to. maybe ang dahilan dito, syempre, nirelease ako, so papawala mo na ako ng init ng ulo, o maybe, ayoko din muna magpakita sa public, sa WWE. That's why he declined. Hindi naman siguro makakatulong o makakatulong sa pangungubinse sa kanya si Matt Hardy, where Matt Hardy is the one na nasa opposite company right now, aka AEW. Pero maybe, malay mo din, isa rin siya sa dahilan. That's why he declined the induction. Hindi ko rin masisisi. Diba? Pero let's see kung ano pa yung posibleng mangyari on this thing about Jeff Hardy and his things right now in wrestling. And for sure, negative daw si Jeff ha. Negative daw si Jeff Hardy sa kanyang drug test and sa alcohol test. Siguro pagod lang talaga si Jeff. Sana makapagpahinga siya kahit paano. And makapag-reso siya sa matinong promotion aside sa WWE. And if babalik siya ng WWE, I wish him all the best and good luck. Alright, let's move on to our typical wrestling review. That's why kaya kayo nandito. Dapat talaga pang Royal Rumble to. But fuck it, we did the Royal Rumble already. And mag-uumpisa tayo sa Monday night. So, Fallout to. Basically, this is a Fallout episode of the podcast dun sa ating episode 87. And we're going to start with the Elimination Chamber. Agad, no? So, we're going to summarize stuff here in this stuff. So, there's a Elimination Chamber match. Bobby Lashley, the current champion, will defend the WWE Championship in a Elimination Chamber match. It's gonna be Brock Lesnar, who got put by Adam Pearce in the match. Nilagay siya doon as a, siguro hakot, crowd at least. And then, Seth Rollins, by putting himself in the match as well. In-announce niya yun during a Kevin Owens show. And then, there's a qualifying matches. So, AJ Styles defeated Rey Mysterio in a fantastic match. Si Austin Theory defeated Kevin Owens in a good, astonishing match. And yung kay Riddle, he defeated Otis after nung scooter race, which is we're going to talk about in a bit. Yung scooter race is fine, alright? Okay lang sa akin, kaya lang medyo, ewan ko kung yung mindset na inisip ko. Lately kasi, di ba, nababawasan na ulit yung wrestling sa WWE. It's kinda makes me sad a little bit. Pero hindi rin natin masisisi because E stands for entertainment. And WWE is not only for wrestling fans, right? So that's why we're getting this stuff over and over again. Na, hindi rin natin sila masisisi. Okay. So, let's talk about the EC now. Kasi according doon, if Brock Lesnar wins the WWE Championship, ang possibility niyan for WrestleMania is a winner-take-all match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns for the world title and the Universal title, which is isa sa mga iniiwasan ko. Pero ito kasi yung pinakamalaking possibility right now eh. Ito yung biggest possibility na nilook forward natin right now. But, at least, may mga backup yan. Syempre. The biggest backup plan for this story is if Riddle wins the EC match. According kasi sa dapat si Riddle ang mananalo ng Royal Rumble. Until the change. So that's why Brock won the Rumble. And then, baka si Riddle na lang ang manalo ng WWE Championship and he will challenged by Randy Orton. Diba? Dissolution niya ng RK Bro. Yun ang balita. Kasi kung mag-split ang RK Bro, dapat ang paglalabanan nila is WWE Championship. Diba? Yun ang balita. Yun ang kumakalat na balita. And yun ang biggest possibility if they're going to do that. But let's see kung ano pa yung malaking possibility. But the biggest possibility kasi is Brock fighting Roman in a winner take all. That's the biggest possibility and the biggest speculation right now in professional wrestling on the WrestleMania Night 2 main event. Now, and then, move on tayo. So, let's talk about the scooter race really quick. The scooter race is fine. Sabi ko nga kanina, sobrang tuwa ako kasi mas naig nga syempre yung entertainment stuff ito. Less wrestling. But, it's kinda disappointing na di natin makukuha yung rematch for the tag titles between RK Bro and Alpha Academy, which is kinda saddens me the most. And, okay. Siguro, mag-look forward na lang ako. Pag natalo ulit ang RK Bro, possibility mag-heel turn si Randy dito. O si Raiden, malin natin. No? Yun lang muna. Ayoko muna magsalita ng kapos, baka hindi magkatotoo. Ano? And then, move on tayo. AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. Both of them are baby faces. And we got a fantastic singles match. WWE quality singles match. Which is I love the most. And ito yung sa tingin ko nag-stand out on this week's episode of Raw. Sobrang nagustuhan ko tong match na to. And I think hindi ako magsasawa panoorin to. Pag i-replay ko siya, ito yung isa sa mga matches na hindi ko dapat pagsasawaan. Because this match is definitely fucking good. Yeah. And then finally, let's move on to Ronda Rousey. Ronda made her return on Raw after 3 years. And hindi pa niya nasagot kung sino yung i-challenge niya for the WWE Championship. Ay, the Women's Championship. Like Brock, that na-reveal niya agad, top of the hour, that he will challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title or if matatalo niya si Lashley for the WWE Championship. Which is ang balita kasi wala silang plano for the WWE Championship. Separate program for Lashley. Diba? Wala pa naman daw silang plano for him. So that's why parang may speculation na Brock will win the title. Then we're going to do the winner take all thing. Let's see. And then, finally, let's talk about Ronda na ulit. Yung kay Ronda, hindi pa natin nakuha yung sagot. So probably we're going to get the answer on this week's episode of SmackDown. Ang possibility kasi niyan, it's either Ronda, Charlotte versus Ronda, Becky, Charlotte, Ronda. But ang gusto ko talaga, kung draw ang pag-uusapan, I'm going to pick Ronda and Becky. Sinabi ko na to sa Twitter or sa IG ng podcast. I think Ronda and Becky ang mas magdodraw kumpara sa Ronda and Charlotte. I'm not saying I hate Charlotte, but I think the history between Ronda and Becky, mas maganda yung naging history nila sa feud nila. And sa tingin ko, masisettle na yung feud right now if ang pipiliin dito is Ronda versus Becky. But hindi naman ako nag-expect masyado kung Ronda versus diba? Ronda versus Charlotte. But it's okay. It's okay for me. Okay. Let's talk about NXT now before we go to the commercial. Ayun, unahin natin tong Imperium versus Diamond Mine. Diamond Mine impressed me the most para sa akin. Sobrang galing ng Imperium. Then, as well, lalo na si Gonta. Man, that's so fucking good. I swear, if hindi to magsasettle sa isang maybe a big match sa Vengeance Day, magkatampo ako ng konti. Because as of right now, ang nakikita nating matches for Vengeance Day are kinda tag titles, women's tag, and tag team. Hindi, tag team North American. And the Dusty Cup, probably dito din. Kasi announce na din, di ba? And I wish this match, Imperium or Roderick Strong versus Ganta, Yun ang isa sa dapat na ilagay nila sa takeover sa Vengeance Day card na to. And magwawala ako pag nangyari yun. Meanwhile, speaking of pagwawala, lagay natin dito din yung kay Kaylee Ray and kay Mandy Rose na in-announce na din for next week's NXT on Sci-Fi. Oh yes, Sci-Fi kasi gagamitin sa Olympics yung USA Network from February 3, the US until February 19 or 20. Probably 20. Yes, 21 doon sa US. Gagamitin nila yung feeds ng USA Network. Kaya sagasa yung Raw and SmackDown sa programming. So that's why Sci-Fi muna ulit yung gagamitin na lang channels for Raw and NXT sa US. Don't worry sa mga nanonood dyan sa Sony 10.1, sa Sony 10.3, Sony 10.4, BT Sport, Top Go, Top Sports, One Sports. Ewan ko. Kung One Sports Plus, baka kasi sumabit yung SmackDown. Baka magkaroon din ng special programming sa ST. Sana maglabas sila ng matinong detalye about the SmackDown. Kasi marami din nanonood ng SmackDown sa One Sports Plus. And then, let's move on na tayo. Layo-layo na tayo ng konti. Let's talk about Kaylee Ray and Mandy Rose. Apparently, ito ay nangyayari na for weeks. Itong mind games ni Kaylee Ray, which I love the most. And she really impressed me on her promos lately. Sobrang impressive talaga. And si Mandy naman, obviously, I love her character right now. Sobrang ganda ng pinapakita niya and toxic attraction. And naglo-look forward pa ako sa mga pwedeng gawin ng toxic sa NXT Women's Division. Especially, lumalaki na lalo yung division nila. And sana bigyan tayo ng matinutinong matches for Vengeance Day. And then, going to do a real quick review before we go to the commercial. It's Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade. That was a fantastic match. Ito, here's the thing. If you bubuk ng tama si Cora Jade, I swear, andito na sa atin ang successor ni AJ Lee. Ako nagsasabi. If ibubuk ng maayos tong si Cora Jade, nasa harap nyo na makikita nyo na kung sino yung matinong successor ni AJ Lee sa WWE. And that's for sure, guaranteed yun. Diba? And meanwhile, si Raquel, nakikita ko to few months from now, nasa Raw or SmackDown na to. And in-announce na din sa, ewan ko in-announce na officially, but nag-tease sila that they're going to join the Dusty Cup, the women's side of things. And, ayun, let's see. Sila yung naging favorite so far. And possible nga sila pa manalo. No? And then, finally, the main event, Braun Breaker, Tommaso Ciampa versus Legado del Fantasma. For me, hindi ako nadismaya dito. Sobrang walang tapon dito sa laban na to. And, it's kinda, sad na hindi pa ata na-official yung Santos Escobar versus Braun Breaker for the title. Parang binibigyan pa nila ng matinong build-up itong story nilang dalawa. So, titingnan pa din natin kung ano yung possibilities about this thing. And sana lang hindi 2 hours lang yung NXT na yun. NXT Vengeance Day. Sana hindi lang 2 hours. Sana itrato nila to ng parang takeover. Kasi since ito dapat yung takeover na i-takeover for February event, Vengeance Day. Pero they reduced it as a NXT on USA Network and now on Sci-Fi due to Winter Olympics. Sana hindi lang pang takeover yung mapakita natin on this pay-per-view or premium live event or premium pre-live event. Okay. For now, we're going to take a break and when we come back, we're going to talk about AEW, my recap on Royal Rumble, and ayun, we're going to take a break. But for now, let's check our other podcast here on Pipe Network. It's gonna be a long break since isa lang ang commercial natin for this week.
Gusto niyo bang malaman kung paano kami nakikipag-collab sa mga brands in the MT Show podcast? We use Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast. If meron kang podcast, sign up now at podmetrics.co and use my code THEMTGSHOWPOD to get full control on how you monetize your show regarding of its size. Again, sign up now at podmetrics.co and use my code THEMTGSHOWPOD. If you're an advertiser who wants to collab with us, head on over to advertiser.podmetrics.co and fill up the form. Again, Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast.
Hi, my name is Mark Adam and I'm the host of Quantox the Podcast, a podcast show that we can discuss different hot trending topics from love, social media, politics, and many more. May pagkulitan makipagkwentuhan lang dito sa Quantox the Podcast. See you there!
You are listening to the MTG Show Podcast, an unfiltered Tagalog wrestling podcast where they talk about anything and everything about professional wrestling. Speaking of professional, we are professionally going to segue to our own show, Rule 20 Podcast, where the only professional thing we do are done mostly off the record, behind the cam, and under the sheets. Again, that's Rule 20, available wherever you are listening to this right now. And now back to the podcast.
Okay, we're back. You are listening to the MTG Show Podcast. We're back. And let's talk about AEW now. AEW, man. First thing, we need to talk about Cody versus Sammy. Kasi nirate to ni Dave Meltzer ng 5 stars. Man. It's kinda embarrassing yung kanyang system. It's kinda embarrassing na hindi natin malaman-laman kung ano ba yung basis ni Dave Meltzer on this one. Kasi hindi natin malaman kung ano yung katarantaduhan niya sa AEW. Yung loyalty niya sa AEW medyo shady eh. Diba? Medyo hindi siya kapani-paniwala. And yung mga ratings niya on AEW, hindi rin kapani-paniwala. No? And binigyan daw siya ng 5 stars. So guys, let me know if tingin nyo worth it ba yung 5 stars na yon ni Dave Meltzer. For me, sakto lang. Pero I don't think it's worth 5 stars. I don't think na worth it siya for 5 stars. At all. Diba? Hell, ito, may naalala ko bigla. Yung NXT ladder match for the North American Championship, I don't think Dave Meltzer gave it a 5 because he's dead to WWE. I don't think na binigyan niya ng 5 stars because he sucked. But definitely, that's a better match than this one. Plus, consider natin na TV match kasi to. Diba? But, wala eh. That's Dave Meltzer eh. Dave Meltzer is big AEW sucker. So, wala tayong magagawa. Diba? Meanwhile, let's move on to MJF versus CM Punk. Man. I swear, that is the best match of Dynamite so far. Holy shit. Man, dito ako napalakpak doon. Saludo ako kay MJF at saka kay CM Punk dito. Man, hanggang ngayong recording, nagmamay-blown pa rin ako on what we saw on this week's Dynamite. Because MJF versus CM Punk is a marquee match. Dapat pay-per-view to. But no, we got it on TV. TV, holy shit. He said on TV. Because it's better on pay-per-view. But no, we got it live on TBS. And holy shit, we got a 40-minute war. Nakala mo, hindi 40 minutes. Kasi, di ba, may commercials yan. It's kinda sad kasi there's a lot of commercials for this week's Dynamite. And especially nilagay nyo dito yung Punk MJF. It's kinda sad na ganun yung nangyari. Pero, regardless, that's a pretty good match between Punk and MJF. If ikasama ko to sa ratings, sige, re-rate natin. Siguro I can give it a 4.5 over 5 because of its storytelling. I swear, it deserves a 5 pero hindi. Sobrang chippy pa yun nung ending para sa akin. Lang ang problema ko, sobrang chippy pa yun nung ending. And I wish lang na masundan o magkaroon pa ng isang marquee match where this time, umaasa na ako na magta-turn si Wardlow kay MJF. Yun din naman ang habol ng iba. That's why they're looking forward on this. Diba? But no, fuck you, not today. Okay, let's move on to Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. And singit na din natin dito yung kay Brian Kendrick story. And, yun. Let's talk about the original plan. So, si Brian Kendrick was released from his WWE contract on February 1. And then, in-announce agad-agad, na he will compete against Jon Moxley on Dynamite. Few hours later, in-announce ni Tony Khan, DK, na ipupull out si Brian Kendrick doon sa card due to his Holocaust, controversial thoughts on Holocaust, and iba pang controversy or conspiracy theories. Sobrang controversial kasi ng mga pinagsasabi nitong pukinginan to. And wala, mamaya natin na-explain yung mga follow-ups doon kay Brian Kendrick. But for now, let's talk about the Dynamite. The match, it's fine for me. Sakto 1 lang. It's not the best Jon Moxley match na pwede nyo makita. But I think nagtutuloy-tuloy yung story. So it kind of makes sense to me. Ayun, so speaking of story, let's talk about Bryan Danielson offering Jon Moxley a tag team. O mag-form daw sila ng tag team. Ayun. So, stable. Kasi hindi lang stable daw. Kasi sinabi ni DB, Bryan Danielson, earlier, na ino-consider o ino-offeran niya si Jon Moxley na gumawa sila ng stable o mag-tag set sila ng tag team. O mag-form sila ng tag team or stable. And hindi sumagot si Mox dito. Parang i-consider niya pa lang muna. Pag nag-decline dito si Mox, for sure, we're going to get a match. Wala rin naman tayo nakuha ang answer for now. And madami pa name drops eh. It's Daniel Garcia, si Wheeler Yuta, tsaka si Lee Moriarty. I think those punks can ride their asses. I don't think na hindi nila kakayanin yung 3, yung 4, no? And sana lang matuloy niya. Sana mag-guess si Mox. And let's see kung ano yung pwede nilang gawin o yung mga pwede nilang magawa. Pwede nilang magawa during that run. No? It's gonna be good for sure. And finally, let's talk about a peace break. Hibala, pinag-usapan natin to. So let's talk about Paige Van Sant making her return on AEW, beating up Brandy Rhodes. You deserve it, bitch. Wait, kailangan ba natin pag-usapan to? So I don't think we deserve to talk about this. We don't think we deserve to talk about this. Because it sucks. Cody suck. Brandy suck. And definitely, I'm not going to waste my time on this shit. Right? Alright. Masyado na tayo nagdolokohan. So, follow up natin yung kay Brian Kendrick. Yung kay Brian Kendrick naman, nag-post siya ng tweet. Nag-tweet siya na nag-apology siya for his action. Babasahin natin mabuti. So, I apologize for all the heat and embarrassment I have. Okay, for putang ng hirap basahin. Basta pangay kasi sulat ko. Teka. I apologize for all the hate and embarrassment I have caused with my words. These are not my beliefs and these are not on my behalf. And I think he crossed the line. Okay, sinamari ko na lang. Because pangit ng sulat ko. So, he said that tinuit niya yun earlier the day. Kasi, di ba, lumabas nga yung story ni TK that pinull out niya si Brian Kendrick from his match versus John Moxley. And, ayun, siguro, I wish him all the best na lang kung ano pa yung next sa kanya. But definitely, AEW is not for me. I'm going to give a props to AEW because nagbigay agad sila ng action. Gusto nangyari. Diba? Nagbigay agad sila ng action. Diba? That's why I like about this stuff. AEW and TK, gumagawa agad sila ng action. Diba? That's why I love AEW. That's why I respect them. Kasi hindi siya nangungumbinse. Hindi nangungumbinse sa TK. Right? I don't know for now. Okay. Okay, we're going to do a recap for this year's Royal Rumble. Siguro, konting recap lang. So, we got Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins match. And it's kind of a good match for me. Parang ito yung kailangan kong i-look forward sana for WrestleMania or EC. Kaso wala. There's a major changes that we got because of Brock Lesnar's win. Alright? And then the Women's Royal Rumble. It's kinda, I know that's a predictable winner. It's Ronda. But the returns, some spots like yung kay Nikki ASH, especially Impact Champion Mickey James appearance on this year's Royal Rumble, sobrang memorable nun for me. I swear. And then the Raw Women's title, kung gaano kay laban, gaano din kay yung rating ko on that. The WWE Championship, I think, nag-interconnect talaga to, yung WWE Championship, the Universal title match, and then the Men's Rumble. So, it makes sense that Brock won the Rumble. No? Ayan, so WWE Championship, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman screwed Brock Lesnar for the title. And sana nga mangyari. Ulit. Hindi, actually mangyayari na talaga since na-official na. Yung Brock versus Reigns at Mania. Unless mananalo ulit si Brock kay Lashley and wins his championship back. And then the mixed tag match, it's okay. Not bad. But makes sense for me para makapag-move on din si Edge. And I think Beth Phoenix din as well. Sana makakuha tayo ng matinong-tinong program kay Edge for this year's Mania. And then finally, the Men's Rumble, like what I said dun sa review, sobrang nag-interconnect talaga yung tatlong matches na to sa card. So it's basically a Brock Lesnar Royal Rumble redemption match. And I'm not mad at it. Conclusion, guys, yung mga naiiyak-iyak dyan about this year's Royal Rumble, kaya ma-upset. Lahat ng plots, kitang-kita na eh. Lahat ng plots, lahat ng stories for this year's Rumble, kitang-kita na eh. Nandun na yung butas. Di ba? Lahat ng butas andun na. Lahat ng stories nilapag nila noong day 1. There's the execution ngayong Royal Rumble. So, kung hindi pa kayo nakaisip na, ito pala yung mangyayari. Eh, di Pacquiao. Diba? Diyos ko. Itong mga klase para kay mga bata mag-isip. Okay, rate natin ulit yung itong Royal Rumble Premium Live Event. So, Rollins and Reigns, 4 out of 5. The Women's Rumble, 4 to 5 as well. The Raw Women's Title, 3. The WWE Championship, 4. The Mixed Tag is 3. The Men's Rumble is 4. Man. Personal thought, my match of the week is obviously Roman versus Seth. Royal Rumble Edition. It's obviously Roman. Now, and kailangan natin mag-pick. Okay, mag-picks na rin tayo since pa extra na to. So, picks of the week. Yung ating picks of the week from last week. So, it's Ronda Rousey for the women, Brock for the men, and the match of the week is Sammy Guevara versus Cody Rhodes for the TNT Championship doon sa Beach Break. And yung Royal Rumble Edition naman, in-announce namin to doon sa episode. So, it's Brock, Ronda, and the Rollins and Reigns match. Ako nagsabi nito. Ako nag-pick nito. No? I think pinik din to ni Derb, but di ko natanda. Okay. It's time for me to go. But before we go, so I'm going to plug something. Some things na kailangan natin i-plug for the podcast. So, Lazada, syempre, Lazada link is still up in the description below. If you want to support the podcast by your shopping on Lazada, podlink.co/6gs. Again, that's podlink.co/6gs. Shopee, katatapos lang yung sale nila. I think magkakaroon pa ng payday sale on 15. So, if you want to support the podcast as well on Shopee, please use my link, podlink.co/bhx. Again, that's podlink.co/bhx. Again, also on NordVPN, si Nord kasi nagpapapromo right now, 2 years plus 1 month for only $89. And check nyo yung link doon sa link 3 ko or itong podlink.co/bwn to avail that deal 2 years and 1 month for only $89. And finally, our Patreon is now open once again. That's patreon.com/TheMTGShowPod. As low as $1 as a support to the podcast. No? Parang support offering ko to. Parang peace offering sa akin. Parang offeran nyo naman ako just for the support of this podcast. Alright? It's time for me to go now. Ayun, so follow the podcast on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on TikTok at the MTG Show Pod. You can follow and support the podcast on those platforms, and don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, you can listen on this episode every Fridays, and yung episode namin kahapon ni Derb na available na on your favorite podcast platforms and on the podcast app, which is our Royal Rumble review. I want to give a shout out to Derb. Thank you very much for that episode, man. I really appreciated your help, man. It's always good to be back. No? And syempre, pag may guest, iba talaga yung atmosphere ng episodes na para sa akin. And of course, Pipe Network. PipeNetwork.co for more Pipe Network shows. And then, you can support the podcast network by supporting us. Lahat kami sa Pipe Network by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on TikTok at Pipe Network. And you can listen to my latest Pipe Network related episode, yung Sa Tao Ba To, the podcast, and the companion show. Sumali ako doon, but nagkalat lang ako doon para pakinggan nyo pa din the Tao Ba To Podcast is available on your favorite podcast platforms. And for me, follow my personal social media platforms at AG Penera on Twitter and Instagram. Okay, it's time for me to go na talaga. I want to give a shout out talaga kay Derb, man. Thank you very much for last recently episode natin. That was a blast. And yun, man. Thank you very much. See you on the next episode. Stay safe, stay reso, vaccine yourselves up. Sana kung may booster kayo, do it. Kasi ako hindi pa, papabooster pa lang ako. And on May 2022, please vote. And double mask up, register to packet. Please vote on May 2022 for the right people. Kung sino may deserve ng boto nyo, please give it. Huwag kayong bumoto sa Magna. Kung ano yung iniisip nyo, sana ayusin nyo buhay nyo. Yung mga iboboto nyo, sana ayusin nyo. Ayusin nyo, please. Fix yourselves. Umayos kayo. Yun lang masasabi ko. For now, on behalf of everyone, I want to give a shout out for everyone who is supporting this podcast. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay razo. See you on the next episode of the podcast. Peace.
Did you know that podcasts are the new radio? You can listen to your favorite shows anytime, anywhere, on demand. Visit the Pilipinas Indie Podcast and Entertainment Network at pipenetwork.co to see our list of shows. And like us on Facebook to get updates on our latest episodes, events, promos, and freebies. The Pipe Network, taking podcasting to the next level.